Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a real head-scratcher from one of history's greatest thinkers, Immanuel Kant. He was this huge champion of human freedom and reason, right? But his political ideas hide a paradox that has had people debating for centuries.
Okay, let's just get right into it. How can the same guy who celebrated individual liberty also turn around and say we have to always obey the state, even a bad one, and that revolution is never an option? I mean, it sounds like a complete contradiction, but for Kant, it wasn't. It was all part of a very careful, very deliberate system designed to get humanity to a better place.
So, to crack this puzzle, we're going to follow Kant's own logic. We'll look at what he really meant by enlightenment, break down his brilliant idea of the two ways we use our reason, get into his pretty shocking ban on revolution, and then see how it all ties together with human dignity and something he called the freedom of the pen.
First things first, we have to understand what Kant thought the whole point of society was. He wasn't just thinking about the next election, he was thinking about the entire journey of humankind. And for him, the final destination was one thing: enlightenment.
So what on earth is enlightenment? Well, Kant's definition is legendary. He called it humanity's emergence from its self-incurred immaturity. Basically, it's us as a species finally growing up. It's that moment we stop blindly letting other people, the government, the church, you name it, do our thinking for us. It's about having the guts to use your own brain. His famous motto for it? Dare to know.
And here's the absolute key. For Kant, there was one and only one essential ingredient for an entire society to reach this enlightened state: freedom. The freedom to think for yourself, to question everything, to debate openly. That's the fuel that makes the whole engine of progress run.
But okay, here's the twist. This is where Kant starts to solve his own puzzle. He says, look, this freedom isn't some simple one-size-fits-all deal. If you want progress without everything collapsing into chaos, you have to be smart about it. You have to split the way we use our reason into two distinct categories.
First up is what Kant calls the public use of reason. Think of this as putting on your scholar hat. When you're acting in this role, speaking to the entire world as an intellectual, your freedom has to be absolute. You should be able to publicly critique, analyze, and debate anything and everything. This is how society gets smarter.
But then there's the private use of reason. Now this is totally different. This is when you're a cog in the machine. You're a soldier, a government clerk, a tax collector. When you're on the job, carrying out your duties, you don't have the freedom to debate or disobey. Why? Because the machine has to run smoothly for society to function at all.
So the critical difference is the role you're playing. Kant's own example was a military officer. On duty, if that officer gets an order, he has to obey it. No questions asked. To stop and argue would be disastrous. But that same officer, off-duty, can put on his scholar hat, write a scathing article criticizing military strategy, and publish it for the world to read. In one role, you obey. In the other, you argue. See the difference?
Now, this whole public versus private reason idea, it's the foundation for Kant's most controversial argument. It's the key that lets him have progress without chaos. And it leads us straight to his absolute no exceptions allowed ban on revolution.
Yeah, Kant is not messing around here. He says that any attempt to overthrow the government isn't just a crime. It's the worst possible crime. Because you're not just breaking one law, you're tearing down the entire legal system that makes society possible. You're plunging everyone back into a lawless free-for-all, which to him is the ultimate nightmare.
And his argument is pure, cold logic. Think about it. For there to be a legal right to resist, that right would have to be part of the law, part of the Constitution. But a constitution that says, hey, here are all the laws, and by the way, you have a legal right to violently overthrow us, just doesn't make sense. It's a contradiction. It would mean the highest authority isn't actually the highest. The whole system just short circuits.
So you might be wondering, why is he so hardcore about this? Why demand this level of obedience? Well, it's because he's desperately trying to protect something he believes is the most precious thing in the entire universe: human dignity.
This right here, this is the absolute core of Kant's entire philosophy. He believed that every single human being, no matter who you are, what you do, or how much money you have, possesses a special kind of worth, a dignity that is priceless and can't be replaced. This isn't just a nice thought. For Kant, it's the fundamental truth of our existence. And where does this incredible dignity come from? From our shared ability to think rationally and to choose our own moral path.
So for Kant, the entire reason for having a state, for having laws in the first place, is to create a stable, safe society where every person's dignity is protected. And revolution? By throwing everything into chaos, it's the biggest threat to that dignity there is.
Okay, this brings us to the grand finale, the last piece of the puzzle, where it all clicks into place. We've got the demand for obedience, and we know why it's there. Now we get to see how freedom re-enters the picture to drive progress. For Kant, you see, freedom and obedience aren't enemies, they're actually partners.
This single phrase, which Kant imagines an ideal ruler saying, is his whole theory in a nutshell. It's the perfect synthesis. On the one hand, obey. Do your job, pay your taxes, keep the gears of society turning. But on the other hand, argue. Put on that scholar hat and use your public reason to critique, question, and debate with absolute freedom.
A truly wise leader, in Kant's view, isn't afraid of this public debate. They welcome it. They know that open, honest, rational criticism isn't a threat to stability. In fact, it's the only safe way to make things better. It lets the government see its own mistakes and fix them with reason, not with violence.
And that's the whole system in motion. It's like a beautiful three-step dance. Step 1, people obey in their private roles, which keeps society stable. Step 2, people argue in their public roles, which creates the ideas for progress. Step 3, the state listens to those arguments and slowly, gradually reforms itself. It's a path to a better world without burning the old one down.
So when you lay it all out like this, the paradox just melts away. Kant basically gives us a choice. On one side, you've got chaos and revolution, or a tyranny where no one can speak up. But on the other side, he offers this third way, a system of orderly progress where stability is protected and change is driven by the freedom of the pen. It's a really powerful vision.
And that leaves us with one last big question that's maybe more relevant today than ever. Kant's whole idea hinges on this distinction between the reasoned argument of a scholar and just, well, shouting. In our world of social media, of instant, constant communication, how do we live up to that? How do we make sure we're using our public reason to build a more enlightened world instead of just adding to the chaos and the noise? That's the challenge Kant leaves for us.